6 to 7 foot-pounds, so 72 to 84 inch-pounds. An extension, apparently. There we go. Put that one on. There's the actuator pin. So this tube goes into the front pump, and the pin goes into this part of the band. And this tube here has to go into the servo. I think I'm probably going to have to put these on together, but at the same time, we shall see. It was tricky, but it's on there now. So 4 bolts. These are all about 2.5 inches. Those 3, and then this one is about an inch, a little over an inch. So they go up to 25 foot-pounds. Make sure everything is in place. This lever has to be there. The band pin comes up, has to fit in the recess. The tube from the front pump has to go into the front servo, as well as this tube has to go between the front and the rear servo. So they have to go in together, or you never get them in. There's enough things to line up as it is. And then this will get tightened later, and that should be it. I have to turn it back the way it was. One, it makes it easier with a little gravity helping, but also this rear band was caught on the step ring here on the rear hub, and I couldn't see it, so it was very hard to get this to push on because the band was in a much higher position than normal. Before you can put the front pickup in, which is this, you have to do up this nut for the discharge of the front or the rear pump. And so this is 7/16. These are 10 to 12 foot-pounds, 1/4 inch bolts. So I've got it set for 144 inch-pounds. I'm not sure why they want them that tight, because they have keepers, so they get locked into position. So I'm not sure, but anyway, that's what they want. Yeah, that's stripping. That is stripping.
Could they have lied to me?
Okay, nothing obvious there. So the bolt wasn't stripping, it was splitting. So now I have a 1/4 inch coarse bolt kit. And now to try and find one that's got some kind of decent strength to it. Though this doesn't look like it's anything special. All it's got on there is an A and a number, and the number ain't 8. Looks like it might be a 5. I couldn't find a number 8 or even a decent number 5, but I did find a stainless steel bolt, and that's got to match number 5 for sure. So now I've torqued them up, doing the keepers to fit, and I'll need different pliers than that. But that's the idea. I'll just bend the keepers over, and so now try to explain this thing with my limited knowledge and what was told to me and what the manuals say. They have 3 units at the front that drive it. There's the torus cover, which is on the front larger spline. Then we have these 2 torus members here. Test of the emergency alert system. Oh, now it's quiet. No emergency. So that has an effect on how things turn inside. So this one is connected to the intermediate shaft, and this one is connected to the primary. Now the way it works is that the front band is normally loose, so for first gear it gets engaged, and I've tried that with the air, and it moves to engage. So this is the front band engage port, And this is the rear disengage. The rear is normally locked on, and then it has to get fluid flow to release it. So in first gear, this one is on with the pressure from the fluid. This one is on with no pressure from the fluid, and that should give us a 3-to-1 roughly output, and it does. I've checked that. That's with turning this one, this intermediate shaft. And I've marked the, may be hard to see, I've just used a green marker, and I've marked each one for the position. So, and I've marked the teeth on the drive shaft output. So that's 3-to-1. When it goes to second gear, this one is supposed to release. So I've released it physically, so I don't want to always be working with air. And that I will check and see where we're at. Get that back to where it needs to be, and I'll count it. Hopefully that's not too blurry in the light. I've decided to use the arm of the reverse lockout. It's about a 1.5-to-1 ratio. So if I divide that, you can see there's the backlash, which is 27, 28, something like that. So you divide that by 1.5, and even at 28 is better than the spec, and it's more than 10 thousandths down on the gear, so I'm going to accept that. Hooked everything up. I haven't torqued these down yet. I'm still trying to find the exact torque. It's going to be pretty light. Lost this plug. I've got to find that yet. The Lincoln manual has a description of which bands and which clutches have to be engaged for various gears. So reverse, it has what effectively works like a park, which apparently is not the way they designed it. They discovered this afterwards. If it's in reverse with the engine off, then it's locked. If it's in reverse with the engine off, oh yeah, here we, oh yeah, sorry, I've already put it into reverse mode. So it is working in reverse. I turn the front clockwise, the back goes counterclockwise, etc. That part works. So what I've had to do is I just took the reverse band off. I adjusted the screw so this is loose, and the front band I adjusted so that it is off as well. So the front band is off, the rear band is off, the front clutch is engaged, but I'm just using the friction that's built in, and then you have reverse. If you don't have that, I'll adjust those again, then the transmission is locked up. I tried to put air pressure in through the pumps, and I can't get the right combinations going to get pressure into the valve body to do what has to be done. So I've tried everything. It turns fairly easily by hand. There's a little bit of friction with the clutches. I think it should be okay. Certainly hope so. I don't know what else I can do. The clutches were free when I put them in the hubs. I'm thinking it's just because they're dry, and they will fill up with oil when I put oil in it. Everything seems to work. I get the gears. Not much else I can do. Put it back together and in it goes. In the manual it states that you can check the run out using the outer body, so it should wiggle if this has too much run out. Previously I did it with the inner piston area. Rechecked it on the outer. It's, basically just perfect. It's almost zero. These bolts get torqued up to 4 foot-pounds, so I made it 50 inch-pounds just because that's the way I am. 1/4 inch bolts, national course. That's not going to stress them at all. I've got the bypass valve in there. That comes out as the pressure builds. Now to put the covers on. Am I nervous? You bet. important to make sure the covers are all clean. Get all the silicone or gasket glue or gasket material off of it. Make sure the holes are flat. Sometimes over time they dimple. So these, I've straightened these all out previously and they look like they're good. Don't see anything sticking up. So here's the new gasket. I'm going to actually use a gasket this time, not silicone, which means I'll probably have a leak, but that's the way it goes. To make yet another correction, I have a lot of corrections. I think I've made them all, but here's another one. These bolts for the valve body are 6 to 8 foot-pounds. In other words, it's 96 inch-pounds max. I put it up to 100. It's close enough. It's not going to be a problem. To continue putting it together, this is the gear shift lever, and that only goes on one place. There's a absence of teeth right there, so you can't put that on wrong. Well, I suppose you could if you really worked at it, but I could probably do it, but I didn't do it this time. So this tightened up. Here's the gear shift. Here's the throttle. And that also has an absence of teeth. Spread that a bit because I'm trying to get it as far out as possible. For some reason there's a gasket between the bell housing and the transmission. I don't know why, because there's no chance of an oil leak there, but so I made a gasket to go in there. Then there's the inner shaft here. This is the torus cover. So there's a thrust washer and a steel washer. And this steel washer has a key that fits just on that spline shaft. You can see a detent there, or a protrusion that just stops it from spinning. And there's the polished side. Grease it up, put it back on. Understanding it doesn't matter where it goes, it just fits there. And then there's a circlip goes in there to hold it all together. And then check the end play. Haven't seen a speck on that. So it's the thrust washer and the steel washer in there, and the clip to hold it in place. I'm getting 10 thousandths end play on the pump drive. I couldn't find an exact spec on that, but the main shaft is supposed to be 6 to 16, so I'm going to assume that that's okay. In the main shaft I was getting about 8, if I remember correctly. So I think that should be fine. I will try and explain what I know about how this transmission works and check my work, see if I'm wrong. This tail shaft I have an extra one from the scrap transmission, and there are a total of 3 planetary gear sets. There's one in this reverse hub. This is the hub that locks, and then you get reverse. There's one that goes in here, so there's a ring gear and a sun gear. That sun gear goes right out the front. That's the smallest shaft, the primary shaft. And then there's another set that's at the back of the front oil pump. So the front oil pump is driven by the torus cover. Right there. So on the largest splines, right here. Then there's the torus driven, which is this one, and the torus driving, which is that one. So when this is working in neutral, the bands are both released on the front, so you have no drive. It will turn the front pump, so there's pressure, but it will not drive anything. So then when you want first gear, the front band engages, the rear band is naturally engaged, and then you have the most reduction. So that's first gear. Then second gear, again the front hub, but in this case the band releases and the friction plate's engaged, so clutch is engaged. So then you have, I think they're saying 60% reduction? Well, 40%. 60 is first gear, 40 is second, 20 is third. When you want third gear, the front band is on and the rear band is off and the clutch is engaged. Then when you want fourth gear, the front clutch is engaged, the rear clutch is engaged, and then it's direct drive right through. When you want reverse, the front band is engaged, but the rear band is not, and neither is the friction plate. And then the pawl drops in and locks the gear. So the rear hub is freewheeling, and the front hub is locked with the band for reverse. And that description was as clear as mud, right? Hopefully it's a little bit clear. So now this part of the torus goes on. It has a snap ring there that stops it from sliding back and forth, and there's a snap ring on the other end. Then the driven torus will go on the front, and this ring here goes into that groove. It's a small one, and that will stop that torus member from sliding back and forth. And then there's a nut and a keeper goes on that portion there. If you saw a previous episode about making a gasket for the flywheel to go on the crank, now this is the one I made. I got a little nervous when I could see inside that these pieces were sticking out. I thought maybe the whole thing was spreading. So I took it off just to make sure, and it looks like the gasket was actually doing okay. I said previously that I wouldn't really recommend using rubber because it took 4 times, the 4th time torquing it up before it finally did not torque anymore, kept working loose, as in compressing. So I'm going to make a paper one to replace this. I think it probably would have done fine, but I'm not going to take the chance the second time. I took it off too to clean it off because it's easier here than it is down underneath the car. So I like to do things not twice but 3 or 4 times. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or even notify, or any of the above, or all of the above. Thank you.